right, so I am gonna go ahead and start a new project here. You can call it what you like. Track mat. I'm gonna save it in the right spot so that everything is together and organized in a wonderful way. Okay, so I'm gonna just click on over to the edit screen. You can import from here if you like, but I'm gonna go over to edit and I'm gonna click on my project tab and I'm gonna go ahead and import the media here. So let's see, everything is called number 2. So let's do ink 2, help 2, and ghost, no, not ink 2. Ghost 2, help 2, and wander final, that's what I called it. Started with final and then started saying 2. Okay. So I want to control what size my sequence is here. So I'm not going to just take these and drag and drop them because it will size it to the native size. So I'm going to go ahead and come up to File, New, and Sequence because I want to choose my sequence size. So I'm going to do the HD 1080 P 23.97 frames per second. I'll just call this track mat, I guess, and hit OK. All right, so let's go ahead and bring the first one, Wander Wonder, to the timeline. And I see here that it fits perfectly. And that is because that is exactly what I told After Effects to make the size of this particular composition. And then I'm going to bring Ghost on over here and Help as well. Looks like I exported audio with those, even though they don't have any audio. I could have toggled that off in the render area, but I didn't. So I guess I did for Wander Final. I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these audio layers because they're going to drive me nuts. So the way that you can do that, if you have them, is you can just right click or control click and you can hit unlink and it will separate these two as two separate assets and then just delete that. Okay, so my help file, it has some transparency going on back here with the black. I don't really like that. There's a little bit of transparency going on in the sense that the bad TV filter created some transparency here. So for example, if I take this help footage and I layer it over my forest footage, see how you can see the forest come through a little bit there? The graininess of the filter created that transparency, but I just wanted to also show this to you so you could see what I mean when I say that I need to add an alpha channel and it will carry that transparency with the video file. So if you need to export something and bring it into Premiere and have the transparency that you created with your effects carry because you need to further composite it on top of something, that's what, that's how you do it. Okay. So now my help, I don't really care. I'm fine with it being the black background showing up in this composite because it creates a little bit of contrast. Although I am going to scale up this piece of video so that the sides aren't showing anymore. So all I'm doing is just making it a little bit bigger there. And then it gets rid of the wavy areas on the side. Okay, so that's all looking good. Now, what's really cool about this is the power of audio, which I did not bring any of my audio in. So I'm going to go to import and let's just bring in, I think I've got 4 audio files here. And it's like the audio, oh, it doesn't want to bring these in. Why not? Oh, hit import. There we go. I was trying to bring them in from the import window, which isn't possible. Okay, so these pieces of audio, I'm going to go ahead and drag them and drop them. I would just want you to realize, experience how magical it is to add audio to a particular composite or piece of footage. It just completely brings it to life. So I'm not even sure. Okay, so that one I wanted to put under the help. So I'm going to kind of drag it down onto another track and put it under there. I do have one that is a space background, I believe. Let's see. Whoa, I just turned the volume way up. When you're dragging around your audio files, it's real easy. So let me make this bigger for you so you can see what's going on. So it's really, so you drag these around by clicking down on them and dragging, but it's also very easy to bring your amplitude way up, and you could blow your speakers out by doing that. So you want to be careful not to drag that audio up by accident in such a way. Anyway, let's see what this audio is. Okay, so this music will work fine for the first one, I guess. I thought I had, let me listen to these other ones. I thought I had like space, but that's the forest. That one will work for ghost. Okay, that must have been what I did. Anyway, so I'm going to bring this forward. I want to cut this audio where the Wander Wonder one ends, and then I'm just going to clip out the rest of that. This one is for the forest, and I'm going to clip that off where that ends as well. And then I'm going to bring my third piece of audio in, and then I'm just going to have this over to the side for the moment. I think I just turned the amplitude maybe up on this one. Nope, it's still sitting at 0. Okay. It must just have a very high amplitude. I'll bring it down. Okay, so let me go ahead and stretch this out so you can see it a little bit better. So the first thing that I need to do is kind of figure out where the amplitude level is of these audio files. It's really important. You can see that this one is a stereo track because we have right and left. This one's in stereo as well, and then this is a mono track or single track where it doesn't have a left or right track. It doesn't really matter. I mean, like, these technically are in stereo and have left and right tracks, but you can see that they're almost identical, so they don't really create any spatial sort of effect. That only really works if you truly were recording with like 2 different microphones or you've did sound design on 2 different tracks to create some kind of spatial effect. But most people, most of the content that they're consuming can just be on a mono track, which is just a flat, like you're hearing the same thing in both of your ears. Anyway, we won't get into all of the details in that, but let's look at our amplitude levels. So it looks like for the first one, you want your loudest part of your amplitude to be bouncing around -12. And this has a very punchy, like, sort of sound to it, but it is bouncing around -12. So this is fine. It might even be a little bit loud. Like for dialogue, I usually say bouncing around 12 is good. I might turn this down just a little bit. You don't want to jar your listener necessarily. So let me bring it down. Let's see what -9 does. So now it's bouncing more around 15. And I think that's what I'm going to do for this punchy, because it's very like once the video plays, it can be jarring right at, like if you click on a video and all of a sudden it's just immediately like punching the keys or whatever in this particular song. Okay, so the amplitude's good on that. Now this one's high. This is jumping up above, up into 9 and even orange in some areas. So the first thing I'm going to do with this sound is I am going to add an effect to it, actually. This is a great effect to clip off the top, the very top. It's a compressor, and it clips the very loudest parts of the audio track down so that it feels more level. Now, if you're designing sound for a theater, you can have more of a dynamic range between the quiet and the loud. But most of the content you're designing for is probably like something that's going to be streamed online or whatever, in which you don't want to have such a large dynamic space between the lows and the highs. So I'm going to go into audio effects, into amplitude and compression. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. They do a whole bunch of different things. It feels really technical, and it is in some ways, but I'm just going to make it simple. I use something called the dynamics processor. I use this for my dialogue all the time when I make these videos, but I'm going to go ahead and lay that on there. Now we've gone over workspaces in Premiere. I don't know what workspace I'm in, probably editing. Yeah, I'm in the editing workspace right now. But here are the effects, and then the effect controls are right here. So as long as you have the clip selected, it'll tell you what effects are on there. I'm going to come in here. So this is the range of sound, I guess. The loudest sounds are up here. All I usually do is I just take this top anchor, I guess, and I bring it down, and any sound on this track that punches over right here, it's going to clip it off. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I can show you with this window up. So when the track gets really, really loud and it punches into this area, you can see in red that it's clipping amplitude off and it's quieting the loudest parts of the track. So that's a good filter to use for that kind of thing. Also, in general, I think this track is too loud. I want this to be bouncing around 15 like my music track, because I don't want to scare my listener and make them jump out of their seat. So I'm just going to go maybe -6 and see how that's looking. Okay, that's looking a lot better. So now we've got our levels matching between these two. Now let's see what's going on with this one. Got some weird whistling going on, and then I want to composite or mix some audio rather here. I'm going to clip this so that it starts right off the bat. And then what is this other sound? So this is like space sound. Obviously this was created from distorting some original sound effect. I'm going to bring this track down, and I'm going to look at the amplitude of this track. So this one's pretty quiet, this whistling. It's bouncing around -24 here. When I add this, it's going to make it really loud, and it's going to be into distortion land over here in the oranges and reds, probably quite a bit. So let's see. So yeah, it's bouncing into the orange all around. That's way too loud. It's going to irritate somebody very badly. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to start with -12 on this top track here and see what that does. You can see it's quieted it quite a bit. I can still hear the whistling coming through, but it's still pretty dominant. Like this sound effect is still pretty dominant. So I'm gonna I always do change decibels by 3s, like 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. It's hard to notice a difference unless you do them in 3s. It's just a rule that I heard somewhere. So, okay, so now this is bouncing around 15 like the other two tracks, even though these are mixed together. So that's gonna work well. And I'm gonna go ahead and clip those off as well. Down here, clip. And get rid of those. Okay, all right, so here is the end of my composites with some sound. So the type of sound that you choose and pair with your visuals, that's like your viewer is always gonna see what imagery you've put before them, and they're going to start reading into it. And when people are engaging with your content, they're trying to they're trying to get meaning out of it. Like, what does it mean, right? So wonder, it's exploring, but then we have this sort of happy, cheerful, kind of punchy music to go along with it. If this had a very sad or very scary music, we would be thinking differently about what kind of meaning we're trying to get out of the messaging, right? So it's almost like your visuals are the thing that your viewer is looking at, but the sound is what tells them how to feel about what they're looking at, if that makes any sense. But anyway, so we've got some interesting composites, some interesting sounds. Yay, that's what this class is all about, right? Is bringing things together. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and save my project because I don't want to lose my work. And then let's go ahead and we're gonna export media. So you can go to File, Export Media, or Command or Control. And I'm going to say this is my track mat final example. Yay. All right, I'm gonna make sure that's going into the right folder. All right, and then, so I want it to be H.264, but my preset right now is match source. That's gonna produce a pretty large file. So I'm just gonna I usually just go high quality 1080 HD. So that's what I'm going to choose. I'm going to go ahead and export this. And I would say, like, one of the things I mentioned earlier in this tutorial, that a lot of the feedback I give students is that their text is too close to the edge of the frame. The second type of feedback that I probably give the most is that you have jarring levels of audio. So I hope that this little bit of editing audio, just changing the amplitude, putting a simple compression filter on, helps you understand, like, not only is the sound important, but the sound needs to be presented in amplitudes that are not going to annoy or basically annoy your viewer. Like, you don't want it to be too low, you don't want it to be too loud, you don't want it to be too low on one type of music and then really, really loud on another. You don't want your dialogue to get faded out by the music, things like this. You know, you control that by controlling levels. It's really important to control levels of audio. So anyways, let me go ahead and hide this, and then we're gonna just open the final video to look at all of the work that was just completed. And now I have this wonderful piece of compositing content to, you know, put in my portfolio or whatever. And this will come into play for you to create your own version of this as an assignment down the line a little bit here. So anyways, there's the final video. Got all kinds of cool visuals going on, and I hope you feel like you learned some things from this tutorial. All right, until next time, bye for now.